Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to our first Concall for the current financial year. HEG has had a very satisfying first quarter thanks to a very robust global market condition and pricing of electrodes, which in turn is based on an upturn in the global steel sector. As you all understand, all this has been due to a sudden spurt in steel production through electric arc furnace segment in the Western world due to a sharp drop in export of finished steel from China, which has come down by about 40 to 45% over the last 2 years. We believe by the end of current year 2018, steel production in the rest of the world without China through electric arc furnace would have grown by more than 11 to 12%, as against a very flattish curve that we have seen since 2010. To put a rough figure to this 11 to 12% growth in the electric arc furnace segment in these 2 years, it is somewhere in the region of 40 to 50 million tons. And just to remind you once again, this has happened at a time when a little over 20% of the world graphite electrode capacity was shut down in the Western world in the past 4 or 5 years due to low demand. This has put an immense pressure on the current graphite electrode capacities to suddenly ramp up their production and meet this increased demand, which in turn has led to a spurt in electrode prices around the world. Shortage of needle coke has also added to this current situation. Now turning to our own country, India's production in first half of 2018, India's production of steel, has equaled that of Japan, and India is now poised to surpass Japan to become the second largest steel producer in the world after China. With the consolidation in the steel industry that we are seeing currently in India, where a couple of large steel plants have already been acquired by the existing large steel industry players, and some more acquisitions which are likely to happen in the near future, we see a significant consolidation in the steel industry at home, which also augurs well for our industry, as these large players are likely to ramp up their production in the immediate future. Friends, what we have been hearing from different sources in the industry, China's focus on cleaning up the environment continues to strengthen. A further winter clampdown on 82 different steel industry areas is likely to be seen later this year, reducing some more environmentally unfriendly steel capacities in China. Furthermore, we have lately seen that electric arc furnaces, which were earlier constrained to produce certain automobile and other special steel products, have also entered the segment due to technological advancement in the electric arc furnace industry. Now these EAFs are encroaching upon certain segments of steel which were hitherto only reserved for the blast furnace sector, thereby helping more and more production through electric arc furnaces in the future. All this augurs well for our industry, and we continue to see a strong demand for our products in the foreseeable future. Our industry continues to be constrained by the lack of large, fresh capacities coming in. This is a significant and structural change led by the Chinese steel sector. The demand-supply mismatch in electrode is in our favor, and the global supply remains in the hands of only a handful of companies in the world, and the lead time for any new greenfield plant capacities to be created is not going to be less than 4 to 5 years. And on top of that, as we all know, there is a growing concern on the availability of needle coke. HEG is now a totally debt-free company, both long-term and short-term, and currently we have a net cash of rupees 370 crores in our treasury as on 30th June. We continue to seriously evaluate debottlenecking our plant from its current level of 80,000 tons to about 100,000 tons, and we have appointed a very well-known consultant to work with us. We are in touch with all the suppliers of equipment necessary for this debottlenecking, both in India and internationally, and we hope we would have something more specific to share with you in the next few months once we are ready with a full report. Friends, I thank you very much for patiently listening to me. I also take this opportunity to thank all the investors, bankers, our employees, and suppliers who have stood with us for the last 4 decades. I would now hand over the floor to our CEO cum CFO, Mr. Rastogi, to take you through all the financial numbers, and then we'll be very happy to answer any queries that you may have. Over to Mr. Rastogi.
Thank you, sir. And good afternoon, friends. I would quickly run through the numbers of Q1 FY19, and then we'll be happy to take questions. For the quarter ended June 2019, HEG recorded a net operating income of 1587 crores as against 1292 crore in the previous quarter, a jump of nearly 23% quarter on quarter and nearly 642% year on year for the same period. EBITDA, including other income, which stood at 955 crore in the previous quarter, has increased to rupees 1196 crore, a jump of nearly 25% quarter on quarter and nearly 4,800% year on year for the same period last year. Company recorded a net profit of 770 crores in Q1 as against profit of 634 in the previous quarter. Since turnover is a factor of both volume and prices, we are happy to inform that the company has been able to achieve a healthy growth in both the aspects. There has been a significant change in the industry scenario as a result of China development, which were explained by our chairman just now. Though there has been a sharp increase in the prices of almost all the primary raw materials, the ratio of raw material consumption as a percentage of sale has come down to nearly 13%, as the increase in sale prices are relatively higher. Net sales and also the segment results in the power segments are lower in Q1 of current year, as we have been able to negotiate a mutually beneficial term with the government utility company and replace part of our high-cost self-generated power using government utility now. This step has not only reduced the volume of captive generation and transfer to graphite, but also reduced the average realization in power segment, as the revenue in power segment is booked based on corresponding rate of power defined by the state-run utilities. This step, though, has reduced revenue and bottom line in the power segment of ours, but has had a very favorable impact on the overall cost of power consumed in graphite segment of graphite electrode. The increase in annual employee benefit expenses over the same period last year is primarily on account of the profit or the performance-related incentives, as well as the commission payable to the chairman under his contractual terms. The finance cost during the quarter has been negligible, as we are practically a debt-free company since almost last 3 months. Debt has been reduced to almost zero level, and I think, as chairman informed, we are running treasury operations and have at this moment around 500 crores of invested money giving us returns. That is all from my side. We are open to taking questions from now.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may please press star, then 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star, then 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask a question, please press star, then 1. Participants who would like to ask questions, please press star, then 1. The first question is from the line of Sumangal Nevatia from Macquarie. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Congratulations on strong results. First question, sir, is with respect to the needle coke cost. Can you just explain what is the exact lag in terms of consumption cost? I think current quarter cost is at around $1,500, whereas spot is around 35 to 4,000. And when do you expect, which quarter does the current spot catch up in the consumption cost?
I'll request Mr. Rastogi to take it up.
Yes. Sumangal, our purchase cycle for imported needle coke is 2.5 months of 2 months of shipment, which is transit from the party's port to our place in India, and then it takes about 2.5 months to convert the raw material into finished goods, and we have about 1 month of inventory in the plant as well. So all in all, this imported needle coke cycle is between 5 to 6 months. So the lead lag effect in our case generally happens from the price change to the coming 6th month and onward.
Understood. So in terms of overall industry, what sort of needle coke capacity addition are you looking at over the next 1 to 2 years? Do we have any increase in supply commitments from suppliers?
See, as we have been speaking in the past, for the time being, there is only this American company, ConocoPhillips, which is supposed to be going through a process of debottlenecking, as they call it. And as I have also explained in the past, this debottlenecking is going to be operational anytime very soon. And this number, we don't know for sure what that number is, but my guess is we are talking about something in the region of 30 to 40,000 tons. But given that this is happening after a long time, I'm not sure whether this will take some time to stabilize. I mean, this additional 30-40,000 tons that we are talking about, how long it will take to stabilize on an annual basis. So that is what it is as far as this is concerned. And as far as others are concerned, we haven't heard anybody speak about any further debottlenecking anytime soon.
Understand. One last question, if I may squeeze in. So current needle coke cost, the spot cost should hit us in the P&L in the second half of this financial year. So at this moment, do we have any visibility as to we'll be able to pass on this cost in the graphite prices and maintain at least the current level of profitability?
You see, as Mr. Rastogi explained, our purchases of coke is also from 3 or 4 different sources, and so there is no particular time that is common to everybody. So, in some cases it is quarterly, in some cases it is 6 monthly. So the needle coke that we have at any point of time is a mixture of 3 or 4 different kinds of pricing, and it really depends upon which coke we are using in which month. So it's a very difficult question to answer, but more or less what you are saying is correct. I mean, as Mr. Rastogi explained, it is a 5 to 6 month cycle, and major supplies come from Phillips, and those prices have changed from 1st of June. 1st of July, I'm sorry. As far as pricing is concerned, you see, we are fully committed. We are fully committed on a price for the current quarter, and for Q3 and Q4, we are currently in the market. We've started speaking to our customers. We've started taking some orders. And all I can tell you at this moment is the demand is pretty strong. And we see some increases in prices in any case, if not much. But we do see a very strong demand. And as I said in my opening remarks, what we are hearing from China is that, and this is what happened last year also, where the winter cuts become much more stringent than the past 6 to 9 months. And they've already announced that they're covering 82 more cities and towns in their winter plans. So we do think that a lot more blast furnace capacities and induction furnace capacities in China could shut down once again, which is going to create a larger drop in the export of Chinese steel, which in turn has helped the other part of the world, the rest of the world, to produce more steel through electric arc furnace.
Understood. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Atul Nibhani from Aviva. Please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, go ahead, Atul. Yeah, good morning.
Afternoon. Good morning. First of all, congratulations for a wonderful quarter once again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I've known that you have been telling that we are running debt-free company from last one plus years, I guess. So I want to know what are your plans with the surplus cash which you have. I know I saw your interview the day that you cannot mention something which materializes unless it is materialized, but something which you can share in the public forum.
See, as we just mentioned, as Mr. Rastogi spoke about a treasury of about 500 crores as of today, I mentioned 370 as of on 30th of June. So obviously, and we continue to increase this treasury on a weekly basis. So we are obviously looking at various options how best to utilize this. And as I've always said, it's too early to speak about it. I mean, any diversification or any expansion, it does take its own time before you even are able to make up your mind and before you have done all your exercise on various options that you have. So until that time, as I said in my opening remarks, as far as the debottlenecking of the graphite plant is concerned, we are quite at an advanced stage of our preparations. And in the next few months, we should be able to pinpoint a number in terms of investment. And more important than investment is the time, because that is where we are seeing a bigger issue. As of now, it doesn't seem that this debottlenecking is also going to take at least anywhere between 2 to 3 years. And I cannot tell you anything more specific at this moment until we have frozen our scope of technology, we have frozen our scope of suppliers and equipment. Some of these equipments are fairly long deliveries.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as our record, if you look at our last 10, 12-year record as a company on the payout, we have more or less maintained a ratio of between 30-35%. And if I remember correctly, our last year payout was like 38-39%. So there is no reason to believe that we will not do it. I mean, obviously, we will continue to follow the same policy.
Well, all right. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhisar Jain from Centrum Broking. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, sir, and congrats for great performance during the quarter. Yeah, sir, just wanted to understand if the contracts for the needle coke with the US supplier, the Phillips 66, for the next half of the year would have, kind of been done by now. So what kind of increase has we seen in the needle coke price for the next half?
See, again, this figure has been floating in the market, and I'm confirming once again that we have a semi-annually, or let's say a 6-monthly contract with this American company on a half-yearly basis. So we have just got into this contract for the second half, which is July, December. So we are going by the calendar year, not by financial year.
Right.
And depending upon the different qualities of coke, there is not one quality of coke that we buy. So depending upon what that quality is, it is anywhere between $3,000 and $3,500.
Okay. And so the increase versus the first half would be what percentage approximately?
See, I'm sure we have spoken about this number. I mean, let's say earlier than this would have been about $2,500.
Understood. And sir, in terms of the capacity utilization, so first quarter we were at close to 82%. Was that slightly on the lower side due to a needle coke issue, or also some operational related front?
As we had spoken in our last call, we had guided to annual utilization of high 80s for the whole year.
Right.
So we are on track to do that, and so the full impact of that was not available in the last quarter. So we have gone to, as you said, low 80s. We have increased from 80, and going forward, we are still guiding to an overall high 80s. So on quarter, we'll keep improving on that number.
Understood, sir. And sir, just one clarification on this Phillips 66 debottlenecking of the capacity. So, sir, in this also, is the correct number known to the industry, or is it anywhere between 30 to 60 KT? Because, in some areas or places we see 50 to 60, then we also hear 30 to 40. And I know you have told us before that whatever that increase is, they are more or less largely going to distribute it proportionately to the 5-6 players which are there in the industry. But what that number is going to be?
I'm just trying to clarify in between graphite producers plus for the battery use.
Yeah, so I think 15-20% for the lithium ion and the remaining for the electrode guys, right?
That is my guess. I mean, I'm only talking from our past experience and past whatever Phillips has done in the last couple of years, let's say.
Right. Sir, but what is that exact number? Is there a clarity on that number, exact what the capacity will be added?
Again, you see, in these kinds of industries, it's very difficult to put a number because, like in case of electrodes, there are so many different sizes and so many different kinds of electrodes that we are talking about. To pinpoint a particular number becomes very difficult. I mean, unlike most of the plants in the Western world, most of the other large producers of electrodes have 3 or 4 plants at different locations. So they dedicate one plant for one particular type and one particular size. And so that we don't have that luxury because we have one large plant which has its own advantages on the one side. But to that extent, we don't have that luxury to dedicate one full plant and take full advantage of the economies of scale for one particular product. So depending upon the mix of what we are producing for the next 3 months or 6 months, that number keeps changing. So it is more or less similar analogy for the needle coke suppliers. They produce 3 or 4 different kinds of coke. So depending upon which coke is in maximum supply demand, they keep changing their proportion of that mix of 3 or 4 varieties. And all these 3-4 varieties have different numbers. I mean, if you do one particular variety, then it's a different number. As soon as you mix 3 more into that, the total number reduces. So, but again, this question is very early to ask. I mean, neither we are aware about it, nor I guess to some extent even the producer is not fully aware about that. So and how long it will take to stabilize this whole operation. It can take 1 month, it can take 6 months. It's a totally new debottlenecking. So they are also not very confident about any very specific numbers.
Right, but they will be starting to supply these incremental volumes sometime by the end of this calendar year, sir?
No, my guess is earlier than that, last quarter.
Okay.
October, December quarter.
Sure, sir, understood. And sir, just one last thing on the China EF capacity addition that was being talked about the new EFs that they are constructing. So, sir, any update there in terms of the progress of those 105 new EFs with 65 odd million ton capacity addition?
So the update is, let's say, until 2016 end, that number has been in the region of about 50 million tons. And according to the data that we have, by end of 2075, that 50 million ton became 75, which means they added 50% of what they've been producing for last many years. They added 50% on that. 50 became 75. And to the best of our information, this 75 is likely to be close to 105 million tons this year. So which means in the last 18 months or so, they would have doubled their electric arc furnace production from 50 to 100 million tons. And according to what they want, according to whatever policy announcement that they have made, this 100 is likely to be in the region of 150 to 160 by 2020.
Understood, sir. Understood. That's all from my side, sir. Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Devang Sangvi from ICICI Direct. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Congrats on a very strong set of numbers. My question is regarding to the industry side of it. Around 30% of steel produced will now be reaching the EF route globally in CY18 itself. Where do we see this number going forward in, say, next 2 to 5 years?
So when you say 30%, this includes China. Just to clarify that.
Yes, that includes China.
Right. So if we divide the whole world of steel into 2 parts, one being China and the other being everybody else, the rest of the world, that is where the anomaly has been, that China, until let's say 18 months ago, produced only about 6% of their total steel through electric arc furnace. To put these numbers in perspective, roughly speaking, give and take a couple of million tons here and there, if you assume that the world production of steel has been in the region of 1,625 million tons,
right, sir.
China has been doing about 50% of that, let's say 810. And the rest of the world has been the balance 810. So out of that 800 million tons of China has been producing about 50 million tons, so which is about 6.5%. Whereas the other part of the world, which also produces a similar 800 million tons, there this figure is closer to 47-48%, so 380 to 400 million tons out of a total of about 800. And that is how this average comes to something like 30%.
Right, sir.
So when we speak about what is likely to happen, I mean, we have to always divide this into 2 parts. As I was trying to explain to our colleague in the previous answer, from 50 million tons of electric arc furnace, which used to be 6% of China's production, this 50 has become 75 by end of last year, and that 75 is going to become 100 by the end of this year. So which means that 50 is becoming 100, in less than 2 years' time. And the government's announcement says that it is going to be 160 by 2020.
Right.
And as far as the rest of the world is concerned, we have seen a very sharp increase in the rest of the world's electric arc furnace production. And I said in my opening remarks, between 2016 and 2018, that growth has been anywhere in the region of 11 to 12%. So which is something like 40-45 million tons. And that is where the spurt in the demand of electrode came in. That 40-45 million tons of additional steel production happening through electric arc furnace outside of China has meant that the demand of electrodes has shot up by about 70, 75, 80,000 tons. And at a time when about 20 to 25% of the electrode capacities outside of China were shut down. And that's how this imbalance started happening.
So this can go to a 35% range in, say, a 3 years or 5 years time period? If that's a good assumption to take, because both ROW as well as China are growing?
Yeah, it will certainly become 35 if China is adding 100 million tons in the past 2 years and the next 2 years. That's a very substantial increase if you total up the total electric arc furnace, including China, which has been in the region of 420, 430 million tons up till now.
Right, sir.
Obviously, it is if it is adding another 100 million tons, then you're talking of north of 525 million tons.
Okay, so maybe in terms of incremental demand, do the players in the industry have that additional capacity to cater to this demand? At the moment, we're at around 90% plus the whole industry ex-China. So don't we think that the expansion should be happening quicker in terms of the utilization levels so that we can cater to this incremental demand going forward? One kind of the exception or maybe the limitation is the needle coke ability.
And second issue, apart from needle coke, is the time. And as I just explained, a debottlenecking in a graphite plant itself is not a very quick process. I mean, some equipments are very long delivery equipments which have to come from Europe or America. And a lot of these furnaces are civil furnaces for which you have to go 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters into the ground. These are furnaces, underground furnaces. So the civil time itself is a very long time. So at least in our case, it doesn't seem possible that we will be able to debottleneck anything substantial from 80 to 100,000 tons. It will take minimum anywhere between 2 and 3 years, as I said.
2 to 3 years. Any ballpark capex number we can put to this particular expansion?
I'll hesitate to put a number right now. As I said, we are working with a very well-reputed consultant right now.
Okay.
And it's a matter of another 3 to 4 months' time that we will have all this in hand.
Right. So, in terms of the quarter, what could be the domestic and the export mix for the Q1?
What could be the domestic mix?
65-35.
Roughly speaking, it's always been 2/3, 1/3. Give and take a couple of percentage here and there.
And that is expected to remain for the whole year itself?
Yeah.
Okay. And with this 25% duty what the Trump administration has levied, we have seen a significant jump in U.S. steel production. So are we seeing orders from the U.S. side of late, or?
Yeah,
of course.
No, of course. So long as we are not exporting to China, and so long as we are not competing with the Chinese electrodes because of the two different kind of products that we produce, UHP, non-UHP.
Right, sir.
So any drop in steel export, I mean, this duty of 25% obviously means that there will be less of Chinese steel exports going into U.S. So to that extent, their steel production will increase, and obviously they want more electrodes for more steel, and that market was never supplied by China in any case. So if US or Europe start producing more steel, and they produce, in case of US, about 2/3 of their steel is produced through electric arc furnace. So if US is going to add 4, 5, 7% of steel production because of less Chinese steel imports coming into US, 2/3 of that in any case is produced through electric arc furnace. So to that extent, the electrode demand is likely to increase to the extent Chinese steel exports are dropping.
I'm done with my questions. All the best for the future. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Maulik Shah from Inquest Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello, congrats on excellent set of results.
Thank you.
Just wanted to understand, once
excuse me, this is the operator. I'm sorry to interrupt. Mr. Shah, your voice is breaking.
Yes.
May we request you to use the handset, please?
So once the Chinese capacity for steel comes up via EAF route, don't we see a drop in the world steel production, which might hamper the demand for graphite electrodes? So what happens in that scenario? Because as we spoke about, Chinese...
excuse me, this is the operator. Mr. Shah, your voice is breaking. We can't understand the question.
Hello?
So may we request you to use, maybe come in a coverage area, please?
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
go ahead.
Yeah, is it audible now? Hello?
It's slightly better. Yeah, it's slightly better. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just wanted to understand, you spoke about Chinese players coming up with the EF the main steel. Once that comes up, and as we know that Chinese have been using low grade of electrodes, we don't. So I mean at that time, would we see the world EF steel product being again supplied?
No. Your second part of the question is not very clear. I've understood your first part. The second part.
All I'm asking is, sir, once China comes with their steel production via the EAF route, won't it affect the production back in the Western world, and China will again supply those at lesser prices as it has been doing in past, and that would affect the graphite electrode demand?
Are you talking about electrodes going to US, or you're talking about steel going to US?
I am referring to the spurt in the world steel production which has happened is due to the fall in the production by China, right? Because of China closing.
No, because of drop of steel exports to China, not graphite.
Right, so drop of steel exports by China. But I mean, and close down of blast furnace, and they taking the entire time to come up with EAF route. So my point here is, once China comes up, supplements that blast furnace steel production via the EAF route. So I mean, it will again come back on the production level where it was, and would it then affect the world steel production, which it has got, the boom right now because of the Chinese closure of blast furnaces? And this in turn...
No, I can answer that question. Now I've understood. You see, number one, China is still growing by 7 to 8%.
Right.
So when they have closed, let's say, 130, 40, 50 million tons of steel capacities, their domestic demand for steel is still not going down. They're still growing, as I said, by 7, 8%.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they're replacing the environmentally unfriendly blast furnaces and induction furnaces, and replacing them by what you call electric arc furnaces.
Right.
So, and if they have closed 150 million tons already last year, And as I also said that they have already announced that in the coming winter seasons, they are going to add another 82 towns and cities to effect this kind of a closures once again. So if they are closing, let's say 100, and they are replacing only 50, 60, 70 through electric arc furnace, at a time when their requirement is still growing by 7-8%.
Okay.
So that mismatch is going to be there in any case, because they are not adding so much of electric arc furnace as what they've closed. They've closed maybe 140, 50 million tons. I have no idea. Maybe they will close another 40, 50 million tons. So let's say if they have closed 180 or 200 million tons in these 2 years, what they are adding on electric arc furnace is no more than 100, 110 million tons for the time being in this same period of 2 years.
Okay.
In a market where their own growth is still 7-8%.
Okay.
And on top of that, now we are speaking about the duties and protections on steel against Chinese, not only in America but in Europe and things like that.
Okay. So we see that world steel production will continue at the same rate via the EF as it is going right now.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, do we see these prices what we are enjoying right now to be sustaining, and I mean, what can be the eventual solution to this thing? I mean, we understand, graphite electrode is no longer being a commodity and has become like a strategical resource. I mean, but there needs to, I mean, how will the growth, the world, the production of steel would be met by, when we are already running short of needle coke capacity to even produce graphite electrode to fulfill this steel growth that we require right now. So what can be the eventual solution to it? Because we can't grow with the electrode production what we require for steel making.
I mean, I wish I had an easy answer to that. I mean, we are still struggling to find an answer to that. I mean, your question is absolutely correct. And so that is what the situation is. And that is why we are saying that we don't see any worthwhile change to the contrary in the near future, because if whatever we are discussing is that hypothesis is correct, that more and more steel is being produced through electric arc furnace, which will require more and more electrodes, and on the other side, creating new capacities or debottlenecking electrode capacities is a long-term problem. It's not a 6 or 12-month issue. So that's where the whole problem is. I mean, and so that is why our thought is that probably it is going to continue for some time.
Okay. So I mean, we see that a company growing and enjoying the strong prices nearly at least 1-2 years.
I can't speak about the stock. I can only talk about what our plans are on the graphite industry.
Okay, fine. Thanks a lot, sir. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of GVN Reddy, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I had a question because some of my answers were given earlier. But one thing is, Chairman sir, you have mentioned that you have availability of needle coke for Q2, right? If I have understood it correctly. Hello?
No, I didn't say we have availability. I mean, the coke is coming every month, so there is no lag in the coke coming in. I mean, what I probably said is that there are different cokes coming at different prices at different times. So there is a mix of 3 or 4 different kinds of cokes coming at 3 different prices because of the time lag. In some suppliers' cases, the prices are on a quarterly basis, while in some other cases it is half-yearly.
Right. So one more question just regarding the electrodes, the graphite electrodes. I have heard and I have been reading the Chinese industry while one for the graphite, they are for producers.
Excuse me, this is the operator. Mr. Reddy, sir, your voice is breaking.
I'm sorry. Is it better now?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Sir, what I've heard and read,
Excuse me, this is the operator. Mr. Reddy, sir, we can't hear you.
Okay, mobile.
Mr. Reddy, if you can hear us, please come in a coverage area, please.
Yeah, I'm there.
As there's no response, we'll take the next question from the line of Anubhav Sahu from MC Research. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Sahu.
Yes, sir. So I have a couple of questions. So one is on needle coke supply. So of course you have mentioned about ConocoPhillips debottlenecking capacity would be there anytime soon. Wanted to understand from you, sir, that what could be what are the factors which could be needle coke supply right now deliberating why there is no greenfield expansion, given that two of the key end markets, both lithium ion and graphite electrodes, are doing very well for last 1.5 years.
Well, it's a very pertinent question that you're asking. I mean, we have also been struggling to get an answer to that, but from whatever discussions that we have had with a couple of these producers, I mean, there are only 3 or 4 people who produce needle coke, as you know very well.
Right.
The sense that we are getting is that putting up a greenfield needle coke capacity is not only extremely expensive, but in terms of time lag, the time that it will take to build that capacity is going to be even more than what the graphite electrode greenfield plant would be. And whatever we know about industry and what we have heard from some of our colleagues in US and in Japan, some people have mentioned that a new greenfield plant I am talking about,
right, sir,
will take anywhere between 4 to 5 years to build, and then maybe another 6 to 9 months or 12 months to stabilize the operation. And what we understand from the coke companies is that a new greenfield plant of needle coke is going to be even longer than that.
Okay.
So for the time being, that is an issue that is plaguing not only the graphite industry but also the needle coke industry.
And sir, over the years, has the technology for processing needle coke has also changed drastically? I mean, the kind of fuel which was used for processing the needle coke, probably that is not available, and the quality of fuel probably is. Can you comment on that thing? I mean, is that an issue for the
No, I don't think so. I don't think any major technological change or any major raw material change has taken place. But it's an issue of technology. Like in graphite, there are only 5, 6 players in the world. Mm-hmm. In the field of needle coke, there are only 3.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's basically a technology issue, nothing to do with raw material.
Okay, sir. So my second question was, I mean, it may be a little premature to ask on this front, but we have a good exposure as far as our export revenue to Iran is concerned. It's around 7%, I think.
Yeah.
So wanted your views on that, given the sensitivity of the Iran in the geopolitics. Is there anything which concerns you? Is there anything which we can do further on the diversification of export revenue?
Yes. I have Mr. Manish Gulati, who is our marketing head. He will answer this.
Yeah. Good afternoon. I'll take this question. See, our stakes in Iran are not as high, and it really doesn't matter much. Although, in fact, whenever the situation arises of sanctions, usually the Indians and the Chinese supplies have kept on going because India, as you know, Iran is the third largest oil trading partner with India. So something, I'm sure some solution will come out soon. But right now, our exports to Iran are going till about end September. There's no issue. And then later, as the clarity comes, So we are fine. We are fine both ways. We don't have too much exposure. And even if we do, whenever the supplies begin, more than the Western world, India gets benefited.
Okay.
But this is not the first time we are facing this sanction. If you remember 4 or 5 years ago,
right,
there was a similar sanction, and that was restricted to dealing with Iran on oil products.
Right.
So from all angles, what we are hearing and what we are being told is that this current sanction is also going to be in the same manner as it was last time. So it would be a sanction on dealings in the oil and oil products, not industrial products like ours.
Okay. Okay, that's quite helpful, sir. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saket Kapoor from Kapoor and Company. Please go ahead.
Congratulations, sir. And hello.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kapoor.
Yes, sir. Stellar set of numbers, sir. Sir, on a quarterly run rate, sir, actually, what is the cash acquisition we are doing? How much net cash are we earning, sir, every quarter? If you could give this calendar year data from January to June.
I'll pick it up.
Yes, Saket, our EBITDA itself is equivalent of the cash that we are generating. So if our EBITDA has been 1,100 crores, it is 1,100 crores of cash generation for the quarter. The income tax that we pay. So our PAT practically is indicating the kind of cash we are generating from Q1 this year, and will always be similar to the number of PAT going forward.
But going to the what the limitations we have in the industry, even the security factor. My question to Mr. Jhunjhunwala. Sir, how do you want to? Is this an opportunity for HEG to de-risk its business model in trying out with some new verticals, because these type of heydays are once in lifetime opportunities. So how well are you looking? Because one of your enterprise, RSWM, is also reeling under debt, and it is in a good sector. So what is your thought process on that, sir?
See, all I can say is, there are two very divergent schools of thoughts. Some people believe, as you suggested, that rather than concentrating in one area, we should de-risk and go into 2 or 3 different areas. And a very large section of the investors and the bankers also believe that one should just concentrate in the area that your expertise lies in. And as I said, it's a very difficult question to answer. It's a split kind of a verdict. A lot of people believe this way, the other half believes the other way. But as I said, we are looking at all the options, and as I said earlier, the debottling of the graphite plant remains our major first priority currently. And in the next 3 to 4 months' time, we will have a full report on that. And at that stage, we will at least take the decision to go ahead or not go ahead, depending upon how the whole thing looks like. And secondly, from all the discussions that we have had, we believe that this is a very serious structural change. And so long as the supply side issues are not taken care of, and we see that the more and more steel production is happening in the world through electric arc furnace, which is where electrodes are going to be used. So the demand of electrode is likely to keep increasing. And there is a problem on the supply side, where there are only a handful of companies in the world. It's again a technology issue. And then the second major problem is the needle coke, and the third is the time. As I said, it's a matter of anywhere between 4 to 6 years before one can think of putting up a greenfield plant.
Right, sir. In case of this split verdict, the veto rests with the the chairman and the promoter. So you would be the right person who would be taking the call after taking the due deliberations on board.
You see, you're putting the entire onus on me. I mean, there is a board, there are so many advisors around the company, and these are not very easy decisions. And obviously, we are deliberating on all the options that you are talking about. Right. And we're still not ready with that answer. I mean, we are still, this whole thing is very, very recent. I mean, the whole thing changed extremely fast. So we are in the middle of all these things right now.
One more point and I conclude, sir. Sir, I will find, in fact, whatever little knowledge I have, I also find now paper being the other commodity which is just about to participate in the curve in which somewhat like what graphite electrodes have happened. I mean, what has happened to electrode industry, paper is moving in that dynamic altogether with a demand from Europe coming up. So, sir, any views or you also looking to, because there is a lot of stress assets available in the paper industry. So, any views or there also, sir, are you looking for any paper assets? You are doing any homework on that, sir? Nothing on final, but are you looking into it? Any stress assets in the paper sector? Paper industry?
I really cannot answer that question specifically. I mean, we are looking at various options, various stressed assets, as you spoke about. Paper is one of the areas that you are suggesting, but we are looking at a couple of options. Is that all I can say? I cannot be more specific than that.
No, that includes paper, sir. That's all what I was looking for. Are you looking into it or not? So that you can at least say. आप इस तरफ देख रहे हैं कि नहीं पेपर को भी कि that's all.
It will not be right on my part to talk about that publicly.
ठीक है, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Morkia from Jefferies. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks a lot for taking my questions. So recently, last week, Graftech had their conference call and they have come out with a presentation. They mentioned that the spot prices are in the range of 15 to 20,000 US dollars per ton, which earlier they had mentioned to between 17 to 23. So just wanted your sense, like, are we seeing any softening on the prices in the spot market?
Rahul, let me answer this for you. See, there was a period in which there was a lot of panic and these spot prices have gone even up to 30. You were looking in the news. But they still continue to be high, and you're right, you correctly noticed that in the last Graftech said that it is 17 to 23 and 15 to 20, which is fine. I mean, that's how they look at things. But the trend is like that only. With in China, they had gone up as high as 30,000. So, I mean, these spot prices keep changing. But the long-term view is very, very clear. I mean, that they're fine to say that it's between 15 to 20 now.
Okay.
See, somebody is selling 100 tons at 23,000 or somebody is selling 100 tons at 30,000. It doesn't mean much. I mean, somebody could always find a desperate buyer to buy at 30,000 or 28,000. But that doesn't give you any indication. The indication is what the 90% of the other buyers are buying at.
Right, but sir, we don't get that number. We just get this number, and we have to sense it with respect to this number only. How the market demand is. That's
no, the demand is still very strong. We are not seeing any let up on the demand side.
Okay. So second question would be to Raju sir. So can you just help me? What would be the cash on books as at the end of the quarter?
Rahul, we have about 400 crores of net cash in our books as on 30th June.
Okay, thank you. Sir, in one of the earlier questions, you mentioned that we are selling around 35% in the domestic market and 65% in export. Just wanted, if you can, is there any price difference between the domestic and export market? They are the same range? And do we see anything, do we see any price increase on a quarterly basis in the domestic market as well going forward?
Rahul, I'll take this question. See, definitely the prices in exports are quite higher than what the price at which we are selling in domestic. So that part is very clear. I will not comment on how much percentage, but it's a very significant percentage higher in exports.
Okay. And do we see, I believe in April we took a price hike in the domestic market as well. So do we see a price hike or we have taken a price hike for the second quarter as well?
We have taken it from July onwards, and we are deciding quarter by quarter depending upon all the situations. So right now the price is valid for July to September quarter.
So we have taken a quarter-on-quarter increase on the price as well?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. That's it from my side. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Patil B from FRT. Please go ahead.
Hi, congratulations.
Hello? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I would like to know what is the impact of pet coke import ban pertains to raw material import which the pet industries are going to do.
There has been a Supreme Court ruling of 26th of July, and they're talking about pet coke ban, and there are some industries have to take exemptions. Actually, you see right now the four industries which are exempted from it are cement, lime kilns, calcium carbide, and gasification. And now the calciners and the aluminium people and the steel people and graphite people are pursuing the court to grant exemption to us as well. So, more than graphite and aluminium industry is hugely impacted, and we are sure that a resolution would be reached. But yes, as we speak, this is the solution. This is the current position.
So, do you basically foresee that's a major risk, or it's more of a issue which will get subsidized during a time of period?
No, it will take some time, that's all. It's not such a big risk because this has to be convinced and this has to be told very clearly. Like the other four industries who have taken exemption, like in graphite, we are using this as our raw material. We are not burning it, we are not causing any pollution. But then, we have to make this representation, that's all. So it will be a process. We don't see it as a major risk because there are so many industries involved in this.
Okay, so that will not hamper the raw material issue any time, right?
No, I'll also clarify that the concern for which this has been banned is the sulfur, which makes it highly polluting. So what they have banned is a very poor quality of pet coke, which was used for let's say, power generation and all, where you could use a coke which is with 3-4% sulfur. In so far as our raw material is concerned, as against that 3-4% sulfur, which is now banned, the sulfur percentage, if I'm right, in our kind of coke is 1.5 to 1.5. No, less than 1%. Less than 1%. Probably it is 0.2, 0.3, something like that. I'm sure Mr. Rastogi will be able to clarify that.
Yeah, see, the sulfur in the coke that we use is 0.3, 0.4%. And whereas what is the polluting part of pet coke is when it is used as a fuel in the boilers. So we don't use it in our process as a fuel. And our sulfur level is 0.3, 0.4% on the needle coke that we buy.
As against 3-4%, which is now banned.
Okay. That's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Harsh Shah from PM Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Raju. Very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi. in the beginning of the call, probably I might have misheard. Excuse me for that, but I heard that you said that the demand has been increasing, but the realizations are not increasing now on from the realization that we had. But lately, after before two questions, you did say that we have taken a hike on realizations in this quarter. So have I misheard, or what is the state of the pricing right now? Is the realization increasing or not in the recent contract that you've done?
Yeah, I think you misheard. I mean, we never said that the demand is increasing and price is not increasing. We've never spoken about the specific numbers, but going forward, we have only been saying that the demand is solid, the demand is increasing, and the market is strong, and that is it.
So, would the reason for this be any supply side opening up? Are any other players debottlenecking of sorts internationally, or say Soward & Co. Put up a additional brownfield plant? So, is that affecting? Is the supply increasing, or which is not letting the prices to go up, or is it some constraint on the side of steel makers saying beyond these prices they are not able to sustain or not able to pass on? What is the reason for this?
No, but I think either we have not been clear or you joined really late. You see the other suppliers and the other graphite companies, they're already working at very high capacity utilizations. They do not have much room, like HEG, like everybody else. They're already working at 85%, 90% levels. There's not much room. Now, the expansions the Soward & Co. expansion of US was announced long back. In fact, that plant should have been working 3 years back, but they put it on hold because the market was not good. So that's a previously planned expansion. Other than that, GrafTech has one idled plant in St. Mary in Pennsylvania, US. And we just heard that they're thinking about, doing it. So, this is all. So, this is about it. So there are not some major expansions coming. In any case, as Chairman said, it takes good 5 or 6 years for new capacities to come up.
So in that case, why is that the pricing power is reducing?
Nobody said that the prices are reducing. In fact, let me clarify once again, prices are...
But how do you get this impression that the pricing power is reducing?
No, I'm not saying prices are reducing. I'm sorry if you misheard. I'm saying that the pricing power, the prices that, when the demand was robust for the previous few quarters, from a year or so, we have been taking price hikes quarter on quarter. So now that the rate of increase in the price has come down and, you've not been, you are suggesting that the demand is still very robust, but the price is not increasing. So I'm asking, is the power of pricing reducing, or what is the reason why we are not able to take a price hike?
No, if you compare the price 1 year back and now, there has already been a good amount of increase, and we don't agree that pricing power is reducing as such. In fact, prices are at a good level and they are still increasing quarter on quarter.
Okay, so here on also they are increasing, right? It's not like the...
Yeah. Absolutely. Quarter on quarter, they are increasing.
Okay. There was some confusion on my part.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Atul Mehra from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity. So just one clarification in terms of our RM basket now, how much would be needle coke in value terms?
Sir Rastogi, would you answer that?
The question is about the value of needle coke in inventories and not clear about...
No, not in inventory, in terms of our cost of raw materials.
Cost of raw material I have already stated 12%, in my speech.
Yeah, overall 12% you said.
Today our consumption of coke of any kind as a percentage of sale is 13%.
13%, 12 and 13. Sure, sir. And would you be able to say how much this was maybe a year back or something, broadly?
A year back we never saw any number below 25 to 35%. because the realization
Because the
is
realization
very low. Yeah.
Right. Got it, sir. Thanks and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Shani from Search Reading. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon to you, sir. This is Shani this side from Search Reading. I'm sorry, my line got disconnected in between. I have a few questions towards, you have four competitors. There is Shaw, Denko, Concall Carbon, Graftech, and Graphite. All the four have accepted that their fourth quarter profits will miss their profit targets. And what exactly is your strategy? You are again and again, I was listening to you a bit earlier, you again and again just selling only one story that China has closed down most of the units and you are gaining out of it. So aren't you really undermining your competitors, and they must be also increasing their capacity altogether so as to really take on the price increase which has been happening across the market? Hello?
What was your first question? I was not very clear.
I wanted to know there are four competitors, that is Shaw Denko, Concall Carbon, Graftech, and Graphite. All of them have accepted that the H2 net profit would miss the target. You are just, how exactly are you really giving your guidance?
No.
Hello?
No. I'm not very clear. I mean, I have not read any statement from any one of these 3-4 companies that you spoke about saying that in the fourth quarter they are going to miss their target.
No, H2 net profit.
H what?
H2. H2. Did you mean H2?
Yes.
For the next 6 months you are talking about, right?
Yes.
But which presentation or which company are you referring to? I don't think.
I am referring to all the four competitors: Shaw Denko, Concall Carbon, Graftech, and Graphite.
No, but they are yet to come out with their results. I believe it's 1 or 2 days later, 3 days later. So we have not read any such report that they are going to miss targets.
And what about, sir, you people only targeting the demand from China itself? And you are saying that because of the China closure, you are getting out of the price demand through it. Aren't you really undermining your other competitors through it?
No, you see, let me put it this way. The China situation is being described by us as an impact on the total and not as HEG. We do not have much exposure in China. We are saying what has happened in China and its impact within China and to the rest of the world. So this is what we are talking about. I mean, there's no other impact on HEG directly with China as such. This is how we are impacting the situation globally.
I will only say one thing, sir. I am an investor as well. I just want to know this, that your share has risen from 400 to 4,400. Okay. We cannot really, what is your next story coming up? That would be my guidance towards staying invested in the company.
My request is that
only demand factor is the only reason I should be staying here. Because the demand will be fluctuating and the prices will be met with the suppliers also. The supply will be increased in coming years.
See, my name is Manish, I'm marketing head, and let me put it this way, just take out a little bit of time, my phone number is on the website, just give me a call and I'll be very happy to share a lot of papers with you and show it to you because, I mean, there is some lag in, maybe because this is our bread and butter, maybe we do this day in and day out, and we'll be very happy to share with you some figures and convince you, and my number is on the website.
So what exactly are your fundraising plans? Are you really increasing your capacity to really meet the supply and demand? How are you really, are you planning any fundraising?
I think it's best to do offline. The one big problem is we can't hear you properly actually.
I think you have to spend some more time and you need to understand what has happened on the basis of what we are talking about for future. I mean, and as Manish said, I mean, if we do it offline, we can spend 1 hour with you alone.
Okay.
and answer all your questions.
Sure, thank you, sir. I will call back and seek your time from you.
Yeah, whenever. Please feel free to call us anytime.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Gunjan Kabra from Niveshaay. Please go ahead.
Sir, in continuation to the previous question that the pet coke ban, I want to ask about the pet coke ban. So is it that the decision for the aluminium smelters are still under consideration for aluminium and steel? So is it that they are not allowed to import as of now also, or is it after the decision will come? So I wanted to confirm that.
See, I have these papers in front of me. See, aluminium people, they have filed a petition, and there's some. I have the Supreme Court ruling also with me. So they'll come out with a final decision on 1st of October. So their application is already filed. But yes, I mean, they in the next few days they might not be able to get coke. So there might be some temporary disruption for them, for aluminium people.
So for us also, because needle coke is a type of pet coke, and there is no clarification given for that also. So are we also facing any problem?
See, pet coke is used as a general term, and needle coke is the highest quality of that. So we don't pollute the environment, we don't use it as fuel. But yes, this clarification has to be made from our side. But right now, all the shipments are coming, there is no problem. But I think it's better that in the next few days, we'll go ahead and clarify this.
Okay, so the low-grade sulfur is still allowed to be imported in the country, is what I can infer from your thing.
No, up till now, what Manish is saying that this ban came and then 3 or 4 industries were exempted, like cement.
Yes.
And as we explained in answer to a previous question, the pet coke ban is on certain kinds of pet coke, which is used as a fuel for power, basically, which is like having 3 to 4% sulfur, which is very high sulfur, which is highly polluted. The needle coke that we buy has the lowest possible sulfur out of any pet coke, which is 0.2 to 0.3 instead of 3 to 4%.
Okay.
So, like you said, the aluminum industry is going to be the majorly impacted because the coke that they are importing is not 0.2, 0.3, but I think it is more like 1.5%. So, aluminum industry is seeking a clarification from the Supreme Court whether their kind of coke is allowed to be imported or not allowed to be imported, because it is not 3.5 to 4%, and the intention of the court is to ban the pet coke, which is 3.5 to 4%, but unfortunately it is not clarified in the order. So the other people like aluminium and graphite who use pet coke but for different purposes, not for fuel or for power, with much less sulfur than what the intention of the court is, 3.5 to 4%, everybody has to seek a clarification from the court, and then that will be exempted. So that's where we are.
So till the time we don't get an exemption, so is there any production cut or is there any import problem that we face, is what I meant. Till the exemption is achieved.
You see, for the time being, we are still not even clear whether the shipments which are due to arrive, let's say in the next 10 days, 15 days, 30 days, which are on high seas, what happens to them? Again, there's no clarity on that, whether the ban will affect these shipments which are on the ocean, or it will not be allowed to be imported henceforth. So that's another clarification that we need to take from either the Supreme Court or from Customs or anybody who can tell us that. But we do have sufficient stocks of coke as we speak in the plant. So at least for the next 2-3 months, we don't have a problem.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Dhaval Shah from Girik Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Thank you. So just one question. Has your customers got the pass on for their since their cost has gone up because of the electrode? So have they got the pass on for the entire increase in electrode cost with their customers?
See, we have been asked this question many times in the past. If you look at the last 18 to 24 months, the electrode, let's say 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, electrode constituted about 2.5% of the total cost for the steel producer.
Correct.
With the current increase in the last 18 months or so, it has gone up to about 6 to 7%.
Correct.
Although looking at the price of electrodes, which has gone up by more than 5x, the percentage of cost of electrode has not gone up by 5 or 6x. Because other costs, other raw materials have also gone up substantially in the last 18 months. Scrap continues to be between 70 and 75% of the electric arc furnace cost, 18 months ago and today as well.
Okay.
So while all other costs have gone up, electrodes have also gone up. But it has not gone up to the extent of the electrode prices have gone up in terms of percentage. And secondly, if you look at the cost, if you look at the EBITDA per ton of a steel company, the kind of EBITDA per ton figures that we speak, let's say about 4 weeks ago or now, that has increased very substantially.
Sorry, you are saying 1 month ago EBITDA per ton is right, and as on today, that's what you are saying?
No. What I am saying is that electrode has gone up from about 2% to somewhere in the region of 6 to 7%.
Correct.
And because scrap prices have also gone up, power prices have also gone up, so the total cost has gone up substantially for the steel companies. So whereas the electrode have gone up from 2 to 6, 7%, rather than 12, 13%.
Got that, yes.
And second point which I am making is that if you look at the EBITDA per ton of some of the large steel companies, and if you look at those figures today, that figure has gone up by about, let's say, 4,000 to 5,000 rupees per ton.
Okay. So large element in that was the increase in the steel prices, and now the prices of steel are stabilizing. I would not say correcting, but are stabilizing right now. So if there is a further escalation in electrode prices, so is it logical that there could be a further escalation from here? Because typically what we have seen since the electrode cycle started, the price increase in steel and electrode has almost gone hand in hand. And that's why the EBITDA per ton is also back to the same level. It's not seen the impact. So is it safe to assume that the electrode should stay at this level and not see a further increase from here? Because even the steel has to reflect the same thing then.
See, partly you're right, but the electrode prices in India are also dependent on the international price. So we should not just...
Global commodity, correct, like steel.
Global commodity, and so long as India is exporting about 65-70% of their total production, we have to follow the international prices, which and the Indian prices are obviously determined by what the international prices are.
Correct. Because around, say, 2 quarters back, we did hear in the paper or also in the concalls by the steel companies that, I think in the newspaper that we have gone to the government and asked them to get a cap on the electrode pricing. So, and now we've stopped hearing it. So now it's all settled, or still that, some push is going on from the steel guys?
No, you see, obviously, what you heard is absolutely right. I mean, there was a proposal to put an export duty on electrode, but then then we were able to convince the government about the effectiveness of that step that they were proposing to take. I mean, to give you an example, total capacity of electrodes in India between the two Indian companies is about 170,000 tons.
Correct.
The total demand of electrode in India is no more than 60,000 tons.
Correct.
And in the last 2 years, every ton of that 60,000 tons has only been supplied by the two Indian companies. There is no electrode being imported at all now.
Yes.
So if we have a capacity of 170,000 tons and the Indian demand is 60,000 tons.
Yeah, so on that demand supply point, it was valid to not have any export duty, correct?
Yeah, so by putting export duty, we will not be able to sell additional 2,000 tons in India. The Indian market is not starving because of electrodes.
Correct.
So if we are able to produce 100,000 tons more electrodes than what India can consume, I mean, obviously we need to export.
Correct.
And again, to clarify one more point, I mean, if you look at the overall world picture, the two Indian companies control about 23-24% of the total electrode business of the world.
True.
So even if you take out the 7-8% out of that is India, so between the two Indian graphite companies, we have about 15, 16, 17% of the global market share of the world.
Yes.
So by disturbing this equation and putting an export duty, first of all, nothing changes as far as the Indian market is concerned. We cannot sell more than what the demand is, and that demand is being met by the Indian companies in any case. So nothing is going to, there's no reason why there should be a duty. I mean, what are we trying to achieve as a country?
Correct, sir. Got it, sir. Perfect. And so just last question, in terms of your working capital, since you are at a very good position right now, are you seeing any benefit in terms of your receivable days?
Right. Yeah, it's now less than 90 days.
So what was it around? So is there a drastic difference?
Yes. It used to be 150 days 2 quarters back, and which is now down to less than 90 days.
Okay, and expected to reduce further, or this would be the norm?
Slightly more. It should reduce slightly more because we have tightened all the credit periods for all of the customers. So it should improve a little bit.
Okay, and at the same time, are you seeing any tightening done by your needle coke supplier as well? Because they are also in a very strong position.
You're right, absolutely right. So they are also, they're doing the same actually.
Okay, so your payable days also must have gone down.
Yeah, from 180 days to around 90 days.
Okay, the similar, almost. Yeah. Okay, fine, sir. Thank you very much and good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of GVN Reddy, an individual investor. Please go ahead. Mr. Reddy, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead with the question.
Sorry, thank you. I have got my answer because I got disconnected in between while I was asking a question. But I was talking about how much time it would take for a specific company to start a greenfield project. So you have already answered my question, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next question is from the line of Dharmesh Rajdev from BMA Wealth Creators. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question, sir. I just want to understand, of the total electrodes produced by HEG, what is the percentage of ultra high power, that is higher than 600 HP, produced by the company?
You see, we would not like to specify that number publicly, but directionally I can tell you something that we produce non-UHP electrodes by choice.
Sorry?
We produce some non-UHP electrodes also, but that is by choice. It's not it's not necessary for us to do that. But because there's a demand for non-UHP electrodes in India and in exports, so we produce it out of choice. Whenever we see a similar margin or a higher margin on non-UHP, we can produce. What I'm saying is basically we can produce, let's say, practically 100% of UHP if we wanted one day to do. But we share a mix of non-UHP and UHP based on the demand, based on the customers that we have to cater to. And without going into very specific numbers or percentages, I can say that it has always been in the region of 70-30. 70 UHP, 25-30 non-UHP.
Thank you. And one more question, sir. Like it was reported that China is coming up shortly with huge capacity of graphite electrodes. Now, do you think they will be able to make ultra-high power graphites?
Yeah, you see, China does have a large capacity for electrodes, as you rightly said, but they mostly make HP grade electrodes, which are very less proportion of what is truly UHP product. So, I mean, but yes, they do have capacities, and there's a big technology gap also. There's a requirement for needle coke also.
What about the situation with needle coke availability?
It is quite tight still. I mean, it's because with this new application of lithium battery getting added, so already the needle coke was tight, and then this lithium battery thing has made it tighter. So this year, with the increase in electric arc furnace steel, resulting in increase in electrode demand, plus some lithium battery, some product going there, so needle coke continues to be tight.
So as it is, it will be difficult for the new capacities to produce this ultra-high power electrode in China. Does that mean that?
Both the reasons. There's a technology issue as well, and there's lack of needle coke as well.
Right. Thank you very much for taking my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Venkat Iyer, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to understand about the capacity that was shut down by SGL Graphtech. Has it been mothballed or has it been dismantled, and how quickly, if they decide, can it come on stream? It's about 300,000 tons, if I'm right.
It's actually 200,000, and 4 out of 6 plants are surely, I mean, they're bulldozed, machinery taken away, they cannot come back. One of them partly, and one of them is in a mothball type of a state which can come back, but it's a very small plant. It can come back in a year or so, but it's such a small size plant that it won't really add much to the supply.
So what are those capacities which can come back in a short duration of, say, 1.5 years?
25,000 tons was the capacity of that plant when it was mothballed. So now how much time does it take to come back, and whether the company is interested on bringing it back? It's 25,000.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Jiten Savla from VTOS. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. First of all, congratulations for posting splendid results. I'd like to know currently how much cash does the company have, and quarter on quarter how much they are expecting to generate. And secondly, what is the operating margin does the company expect to sustain going forward?
The margins will likely be sustained, and I think Mr. Rastogi has already answered the cash generation question per quarter.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So shall we take the next question?
Yep. Yeah, sure.
Next question is from the line of Jitesh Parmar, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Congratulations for the good set of numbers. I have a couple of questions. The first question is around the new capacity that is coming up in China, the EAF capacity. So out of this upcoming capacity and what they are planning to do in next couple of years, what percentage or, in terms of tonnage that you expect would be in UHP? So because, primarily we are focusing on the UHP side, okay? So what sort of capacity that you see that might come up in China where they might also request for UHP? And have you had any talk with any client in China recently, okay, around this area?
See, the furnaces which are coming up in China are smaller, which will not need much of UHP products. So they are probably designing it in a way that they don't have to depend on UHP electrodes, but because that is a major handicap today. So the furnaces you will see, there are some statements made by several analysts and other people that, there's a number floating around. There's 105 plants are coming, and which will have a capacity of 66 million metric tons, which means 600,000 tons a plant, which is, by today's standards, half of what it should be. So I think that they've done things wisely, and they're not, they know that they're self-sufficient for HP grade electrodes. So probably that will be sourced from within China, consumed in China.
Okay, sir. So in that case, if I may ask, okay, what will be the price gap like in terms of range, okay, between HP electrode and in terms of, UHP electrodes, in terms of pricing and realization? I don't want to know the, numbers, but just wanted to understand in terms of gap, what sort of gap is there in the market?
See, right now, because of the closures of several small graphite companies in China, which were making a lot of HP grade electrodes and, supplying everywhere in the market, that was the one which was dragging the other big Chinese companies down on pricing and also worldwide. So with the phasing out of such one shop type of plants, the pricing of HP and UHP has become very close to each other. Now they're really close. There's a very marginal difference between UHP and HP. And earlier the gap used to be wide only because of those small Chinese companies making all kinds of electrodes, exporting all over the world, and they were dragging even the 5 big companies in China down with those kind of predatory pricing.
Okay, sir. So because I'm probably an outsider to this industry, so is it practical to have whatever China is trying to do, to have everything okay on just HP grade electrode and not to have any UHP facilities or capacity at all? Practically, is it possible, or is it something which is viable?
It is very much viable. See, if you put up a plant and then it takes just 1.5 years or 2 years to have an electric arc furnace plant ready, and then when you come in the market and you don't find electrodes, that's a big problem. It's much wiser to start with a smaller furnace, and then at least you have security for material. So probably they are wiser by doing that.
Okay. And sir, the next question is around our debottlenecking plan. Okay, so if we look at our current capacity utilization, which is low 80s, okay, and if we plan to debottleneck, and what I have read on what I've seen in some of the videos, okay, where the management was explaining how the debottlenecking is going to work. So what I see on the back of the envelope kind of calculation, around 10% that additional capacity we may add. Okay, and equally we might need needle coke as well. So if we see, at present we don't know anything else apart from the one company from America, okay, who is trying to do the same for needle coke, and their capacity, if I heard it right, would be around 40,000 ton. Okay, so if I do a back of the envelope calculation, it is almost we need 20 to 25% of that additional needle coke capacity to support our debottlenecking plan. So is it something which we can secure? And if not, then what would be our plan like?
See, that would, yes, that is a question about where does that additional needle coke comes from. So, there's one debottlenecking which we know of is with Phillips 66, but the rest of them outside of China do not seem to be increasing their production or doing any debottlenecking as such. So what you said is right. So if Graftex says 40,000 tons, we say another 20,000 tons. Yes, that's an issue. So that's, it's going to be difficult.
But is there any possibility that we can buy from something like how we at present at the spot price for UHP, which are very high, okay, something like that when we can do to utilize our excess capacity that we plan to demobilize?
No, but it's a marketplace. I mean, the coke suppliers do not work that way. I mean, they don't want to get into any kind of a long-term supply agreement. That's what, I mean, they're offering 6 months by 6 months, and or quarter by quarter, and exactly this is what in the supply chain we are doing with our customers, quarter by quarter. So they don't want to get into any long-term supply agreement, even if it is for a quantity.
Okay. And so last question from my end. So we are seeing a very good healthy cash flow, okay, and we maintain, kind of a 35% around that, okay, as a dividend policy. So are we expecting something more like a quarterly dividend going forward, because we are seeing a good healthy cash flow quarter on quarter? At present, our policy was like on an annual basis or, on a half-yearly basis last year. So is it something which you are considering, or is there any policy in plan?
I can't comment on that. Obviously, this is a board decision, but I'll only repeat which I have repeated in the past, that if you look at our last 10 to 15 years policy record, our payout ratio has been in the region of between 30-35%. Last year, I think if I'm right, we increased it to somewhere like 38-39%. So I'm sure we'll keep sticking to the same policy as far as the returns are concerned.
Okay. And sir, I'm sorry, I have one more question if I can squeeze in. Okay, so what sort of the cash balance that we would like to see in our balance sheet at the end of this financial year? Because we do have a debottlenecking plan, as well as we are also considering some other options in terms of, a possible venture into the related carbon area. So what sort of cash balance that we plan to see, and what would be our investment strategy or treasury policy for that cash?
I'll ask Mr. Rastogi, our CFO, to answer that.
Dear friend, nobody can plan or project a target cash balance as on the close of the year. So we would definitely not like to have any surplus cash in our balance sheet. So for doing that, we are today also going into the treasury operations to get returns from the present level of being idle in my books to at least returns equivalent of FDs or more than that. That is the first easiest option. But then we are looking at other investment options also in terms of, the carbon space and expansions or debottlenecking. So we cannot target, but definitely we are able to utilize the cash to generate more revenues for us.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. That is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Devang Sangvi from ICICI Direct. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the follow-up. Just wanted to know when will be the needle coke negotiation next happening, which either quarterly or semi-annually?
It is 6 monthly now, so we just finalized our price for the second half for January-December. So the next discussion will happen maybe November end, December beginning for January-June next year.
Okay, and there we also get the clarity regarding the ConocoPhillips, this debottlenecking also, how much has happened and how much can that be supplied to the graphite players as well as the lithium-ion battery players?
Yeah, you're right. But as I answered to this question earlier, I believe the debottlenecking is more or less over, and the new capacity coke should start coming out in the market from the last quarter of this year.
Okay, October or December. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Syed Rukhsana, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I want to ask that you mentioned that in your reports that one of your operation is because it is seasonal. May I know how much that business contributes?
Sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, can you repeat the question, please? I really didn't get it. Sorry. This is Manish.
Yeah. Okay. In your report, in Q1 report, you mentioned that one of your operation is closed because it is seasonal. Hello?
Okay.
And I want to
What is closed, ma'am? What is closed because of what season?
No, let me answer.
One of your operation is closed because it is seasonal. In Thava, I think.
Okay. Mr. Sogi, please go ahead.
Yeah.
I want to know how much that our business contributes to your work. Because due to that, you said profit is going down because it's closed. Next time you are going to get increased. So how much? I want to know how much you are going to be.
See, this Tawanagar is a hydropower generating facility of ours. And this is a rain-dependent hydropower facility that we have. And in this part of Madhya Pradesh, the rains start in the month of July, August. And we start our Tawa operations by August 10 or September. And it runs up to February of next year. So every year, this is the cycle we follow for generating power from Tawanagar hydropower facility. Now coming to how much, since it is rain dependent, we cannot forecast, but we can definitely forecast that it generates about 15 to 20 crores of profit every year, year after year for the last 20 years.
Any other future like this shutdowns are there, sir?
Your voice is breaking, madam. So, can you please repeat your question?
Any other in Q2 or Q3 quarter?
This is the operator. Ms. Ruxana, may we request you to use the handset, please? Your voice is breaking.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. No more questions.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of LP Soni, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations for the excellent performance.
Manish, will you take this call?
Yeah, sorry, because the voice was not audible. I couldn't hear, actually.
I just repeating it. This restriction on the pet coke, import of pet coke, whether this will impact our production cycle or it will have no impact on our production cycle.
See, there is a clarification to be made. The intent of the government, Indian government, is to protect the environment. They first started with that they will not allow it for burning, then it got extended, that they will not allow usage in any form except for a few industries where they were sure that it's not causing pollution. Then there are sulfur levels. The one which we get is very low in sulfur. So there are certain clarifications and which we will have to make. So 4 industries have already got exemption, which is cement, lime kilns, calcium carbide and gasification. Now aluminium, steel and graphite, there are 3 industries left who have to make representation and convince the authorities that this product doesn't cause any harm to the environment or any pollution as such. So this, and in any case, the imports so far as we speak are all coming in. We have sufficient stocks at plant, also in transit. So there is no reason for any concern. So it maybe takes 15-20 days or a month to clarify. It will be done.
So you are hopeful that you will be able to get exemption from the Honorable Supreme Court?
Yes, absolutely.
One question to Chairman, sir. This is regarding the cash flow. The way company is earning quarter-wise, excellent bank balance will be there. I think by the end of March 19, it will be around 3,000 crore of the cash balance. So unless and until you make a good use of this cash flow by way of, say, debottling capacity, which will take you, say, 2-3 years. So this bank balance will remain there in the balance sheet. Unless and until you distribute this cash bank balances to shareholders, your return on equity or various return ratios will be impacted. So my request is take it to the board level. Of course, you cannot decide the dividend or any buyback or any such thing. But my request to chairman is to take it on behalf of the shareholders to your board of directors to distribute a large part of this bank balance to the shareholders.
So sure, we have taken note of you, and as I said, our past 10-15 years record has been about 30-35%, which we increased last year. So given the cash flow, I'm sure we will keep doing whatever we have been doing in the past.
Sir, this 10-15 years track record is not relevant here in the sense that we are now earning huge profit, which has nothing comparable with the past cash profits. Past cash profits or profits were only normal profits. Now there is a huge profit. So you have to take to the board this extraordinary factors. Extraordinary cash flow.
No. That of course is understood. I mean, obviously we discuss all these things in the board.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as there are no further questions from the participants, I now hand the conference over to Mr. Ravi Jhunjhunwala for closing comments.
Thank you, friends, and thank you for such probing questions. I mean, I think this has been our longest conversation on a Concall, and I look forward to speaking to you once again in 3 months' time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.